this Biden interview on ABC with George Stephanopoulos was it was everything you would expect it to be. But here's what threw me off is I went and watched it on the backside. And the first thing I did is I went to my Hulu app because that's where I watch all the things, when they do a good job of recording stuff and you can go back and watch it. This right here is what was on the home screen of my Hulu app. Now, I have never seen Hulu promote political stuff. Maybe a 4th of July celebration or the New Year's Eve special. But never just an interview with a politician. And I thought, why would Hulu do that? I mean, Hulu's a woke company like everybody else. And I said, maybe these guys are trying to promote this interview to be like, hey, everybody, look, we got to get this guy out of here. It's almost like they're all coordinated trying to do it together now.
Yeah, suddenly they got the green light to go.
Somebody said, hey, it's time to get him out. Let's go. So let's watch this interview, and we'll just kind of do some commentary through here. It's bad. Check this out.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night. But your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked them, they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the
George
debate
is like,
afterwards?
that's not good enough.
I don't think I did, no.
Surely this isn't
What I want to get
scripted.
at is, what were you experiencing as you were
He
going
seems-
through
he
the
seems
debate?
like he's
Did you
thrown
know
off a
how
little bit.
badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran, not my fault, no one else's fault. No one else's fault.
But it seemed
Make
like
sure
were
you
having
take
trouble from the first
responsibility,
question
Joe.
in, even before he spoke.
Well, I just had a bad night. You've had some bad interviews once in a while. I can't remember any, but I'm sure you did.
I've had plenty. I guess the question, the problem is here for a lot of Americans.
George is like, I
watching,
can't
as you
believe I
said,
have to do this.
Going back to 2020, watch
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
To people who are concerned about your age. And, 50 million Americans watched that debate. It seemed to confirm fears they already had.
Well, look, after that debate, I did 10 major events in a row, including until 2 o'clock in the morning after that.
Major
man,
events, yeah.
This dude is not
I
up
did
at 2
events
o'clock in the
in
morning.
North
Nobody
Carolina,
believes
events
that.
in-
A major event is going to the bathroom
Georgia.
properly.
Right, getting your
Events
diaper
like this today,
changed.
large crowds, overwhelming response, no slipping.
Large
And
crowd.
so I just had a bad night. I don't know why.
And how
I don't know why. I thought you said it was because
did
you're
it
sick.
come to you that you were having that bad night?
Well, it came to me as having a bad night when I realized that even when I was answering a question, even though they turned his mic off, he was still shouting. And I let it distract me.
Can we pause it
I'm not-
real quick? I want to look. I want you to watch his face. Is his mannerisms change? And listen. I don't buy into this theory that Joe Biden's he's not really Biden and they're using Hollywood makeup or whatever. But if you watch his face, I mean, like, the shape of his face changes, especially from the way you're watching this. Look at his right side from your vantage point. Watch the right side of his face and watch how it moves. Okay, I'm not going into lizard people. I'm not saying that it means anything. But, you know, if somebody was like, is this dude wearing a mask? And I didn't know who it was, I'd say, yeah, it's probably Hollywood deepfake stuff.
But I realized that I just wasn't in control.
But part of the other concern is that this seems to have fit into a pattern of decline that has been reported on recently. New York Times had a headline on July 2nd, Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. Here's what they wrote. People who have spent time with President Biden over the last few months or so said the lapses appear to have grown more frequent, more pronounced, and after Thursday's debate, more worrisome.
Look how heavy he's breathing.
By many accounts, as evidenced by video footage, observation, and interviews, Mr. Biden is not the same today as he was even when he took office 3.5 years ago. Similar reporting in the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Are you the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago?
In terms of successes, yes. I also was the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East that may be coming to fruition. I was also the guy that expanded NATO. I was also the guy that grew the economy. All the individual things that were done were ideas I had or I fulfilled. I moved on. And so, for example, you know, well, that was true then. What's Biden done lately? Today, just announced 200,000 new jobs. We're moving in a direction that no one's ever taken on.
Those all turned out to be government jobs, by the way.
In the government. I took on Big Pharma. I beat them. No one said I could beat them. I took on
well, you, Joe Biden, beat Big Pharma.
We told we couldn't get done. And part of it is what I said when I ran was I wanted to do three things. Restore some decency to the office.
Yeah.
Restore some support for the middle class instead of trickle-down economics built from the middle out and the bottom up.
That old
the way
gag.
the wealthy still do fine, everyone does better. And unite the country.
But what has all that work over the last 3.5 years cost you physically, mentally, emotionally?
Well, I just think it cost me a really bad night, a bad run. But, you know, George, I'm optimistic about this country.
This is like watching a car
I don't think we're
wreck.
a country of losers that he points out. I don't think America's in tough shape. I think America's on the cusp of breaking through in so many incredible opportunities.
We're almost
This
there,
next
Tony
term,
Gump.
I'm
We're
gonna
almost there.
Straighten out the tax system. I'm going to make sure we're in a situation where we have health care for all people, where we're in a position where we have child care and elder care, free up, and all these things. The one thing I'm proudest of is remember when my economic plan was put forward, a lot of the mainstream economists said it's not going to work. Well, guess what? We now have 16 Nobel laureates, 16 of them in economics.
Nobel what?
Saying that Biden's next term would be,
based
on what he wants to do, enormous success. Trump's plan would cause a recession, would significantly increase inflation. I've made great progress, and that's what I plan on doing, and we can do this.
I understand that, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm asking you is about your personal situation. Do you dispute that there have been more lapses, especially in the last several months?
He's having to ask the same question over and over and over and over.
Can I run the 110 flat? No, but I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
I know you spoke.
Keep my schedule.
I know you spoke with your doctor after the debate.
Yeah, you
What did he say?
come take a nap in the middle of the day, buddy.
He just looked at me and said, "You're exhausted." I said, I have medical doctors traveling everywhere, every president does.
There goes his ears up and
medical
everything.
Doctors from the best in the world traveling
His mask
everywhere
is
I go.
slipping.
I have an ongoing assessment of what I'm doing. They don't hesitate to tell me if they think there's something wrong.
When he raises his eyebrows, he
I know you said you have an
lies.
ongoing assessment. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
Oh, here we go.
I get a full neurological test every day with me.
Yeah.
And I've had a full physical. I had, you know, I mean, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. I mean, yes, the answer is
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would
You
be
can't
willing
tell me what to
undergo an
do,
independent medical
George.
Evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test.
Then we
Everything
all
I
do,
do.
I guess.
You know, not only am I
I
campaigning, but I'm
mean,
running
as
the world.
amateur
And that's not- it
neurologist,
sounds like
we
hyperbole.
examine him on a daily
We are
basis, and he
the
fails every
central
single
nation in the
day.
world. Madeleine Albright was right. And every single day, for example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister of, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu. I'm on the phone with the new Prime Minister of England. I'm working on what we're doing with regard to, in Europe, with regard to expansion of NATO and whether it's going to stick.
I got a
I'm taking
Just think about this. This guy runs the country. He has his button on the nuclear codes. I personally, as a businessman, wouldn't even trust him to run a hot dog stand in front of a Home Depot at this point.
No. If this guy went and put in an application at Walmart and he's like, it's been my lifelong dream to be a door greeter, they would say, I don't think this is for you, buddy.
Can you think of one job he could do in this state? I mean, really, I can't think of one common job, just common sense job that a kid could do. I don't think this guy could do a hot dog stand.
No, there was no job. And like you said, leader of the free world. Now, when you step back and you look at it, we can all agree that Joe Biden is not running the country, and that it's people that are a little more competent than Joe Biden pulling the strings and making the decisions. Here's where the problem lies. One, those people are probably pretty evil people and don't have your best interest at heart. But two, those people weren't elected by you. You didn't vote. You didn't even have the opportunity to vote for whoever's running the country right now. And that is a travesty. You want to talk about a threat to democracy? Let people run the country that aren't running in an election, that aren't getting voted for, that aren't chosen by you. That's a threat to democracy.
And I'm Putin. I mean, every day, there's no day I go through that are not those decisions I have to make every single day.
And you have been doing that, and the American people have been watching, yet their concerns about your age and your health are growing. So that's why I'm asking, to reassure them, would you be willing to have the independent medical evaluation?
Watch me there's a lot of time left in this campaign. It's over 125 days.
So
I'll
the
make
answer,
a decision.
the right answer right now is no, you don't want to do that right
No,
now.
I've already done it.
You talked a lot about your successes at the beginning of this interview, and I don't want to dispute that. I don't want to
I
debate
think Trump
that,
could
but
run a
as
hot
you
dog
know,
stand.
Elections are about the future.
Think about George
not
is
the
in a
past.
position
They're
where
about
he's
to-
like that. I can't believe my career has come down to this. Like, this is the position I've been put in. He's interviewing a president where he probably feels like his career has hit a rock bottom. That's pretty big, because any other time it would have been the gig of a lifetime. You're a reporter, you get to interview the president, and George Stephanopoulos is like, I'm literally here to take down a president.
Tomorrow, not yesterday. And the question on so many people's minds right now is, can you serve effectively for the next 4 years?
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together, the future. No one thought I could explain it.
What?
I'm the guy that shut
Joe
them down.
Biden put NATO together? He created NATO? What is this? Joe, when was NATO created? In the 40s? Joe Biden was, what, 4 years old, 5 years old?
I don't know, but instead of his ears raising up this time, he leaned in on that lie.
So Joe created NATO, and ironically, when NATO was created, Joe Biden was 4 years old. He was wearing diapers, and now here Joe Biden is again, running the free world, and he's still wearing diapers.
No one thought could happen. I'm the guy that put together the South Pacific Initiative with AUKUS. I'm the guy that got 50 nations out, not only in Europe, outside of Europe, as
Crime bill.
to help Ukraine.
Yeah, don't forget that part.
I'm the guy that got Japanese to expand their budget. These, and for example, when I decided we used to have 40% of the computer chip, and we invented the chip, that little chip for the computer chip. It's in everything from cell phone to weapons. And so we used to have 40%, we're down to virtually nothing. So I get in the plane
There go
and get
the
everybody,
eyebrows.
and I fly
Yeah.
to South Korea. I convinced them to invest in the
We need
United
a
States
body language
billions of
expert on
dollars.
this show.
Now we have tens of billions of dollars. being
I'm not
invested
an
in the
expert, and
United
I can
States,
tell when he's
making
lying.
us back in a position where we're going to own that industry again. We have, I mean, I just, anyway, I don't want to take too much credit.
Anyway.
I have a great staff.
But I guess my point is, all that takes a toll. Do you have the mental and physical capacity to do it for another 4 years?
I believe so. I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I did. Look, I'm running again because I think I understand best what has to be done to take this nation to a completely new level. We're on our way.
I actually
We're on
believe
our
that.
way.
He's taking it to a new level, all right.
Yeah.
The
He wants to
decision
take us to a
recently
different
made
place, all
by
right.
the Supreme Court.
Globalism.
You know, the next president of the United States, it's not just about whether he or she knows what they're doing. It's not about a conglomerate of people making decisions. It's about the character of the president.
Yeah.
The character of the president is going to determine whether or not this Constitution is employed the right way.
So there's part one of that interview.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, fast forward it through this so we don't have to hear their yapping. At the end of the day, we're watching Joe Biden's body language, but we're also watching George Stephanopoulos' body language, and neither of them want to be there. Actually, before we get into this, check your email, Tony. I sent you one extra tweet I forgot about. It's some unseen footage that has not been seen by the general public from this. I guess it got cut out after they did the interview and they decided, hey, we don't want to post this on the actual special. It ended up on the cutting room floor. But this is video from the interview that didn't make it to TV. Watch this.
After the debate, we ran a poll, and every single person we polled thinks that you're a retard. We polled African Americans. They all say you're a retard. Hispanic Americans also think that you're retarded. They call you El Retardo. We even polled actual retarded people. Even they say you sound absolutely retarded. You see where this is going, Mr. President?
Well, I just had a bad night.
Oh, man.
Listen, George, I don't blame you for cutting that out of the interview. I wouldn't want to put that on TV either, but that was some extra. Let's just go with a few more minutes of this, because what happens is he starts to deteriorate even further. But I want you to note how many times he says, I had a bad night. I had a bad night. Because he probably got more prep for this interview than he did for the debate. They said they had to cut debate prep 2 days early because Joe Biden was so exhausted. It's not a cold. You are exhausted. It's not a bad night. This is what you do. And isn't it amazing that after weeks of these people, well, I don't know if it's weeks, maybe a couple weeks of them really ramping up the idea of deep fakes and cheap fakes, trying to convince people that what you're seeing isn't real, leading up to that debate, they got smacked in the face with reality and had to admit, okay, maybe what you're seeing is real. There's no reason to be shocked. I mean, I can understand why Biden's staff is shocked or why the media is shocked, because maybe they had actually convinced themselves that Joe Biden wasn't what he was. But after 90 minutes on live TV, you can't deny it. It's bad. All right, let's go back to this. This is good stuff.
Being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity.
Keeps going back to
serve
the
another
same
4
kind of
years.
question.
Yes,
Right.
I am, because, George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that. I think, as some of the senior economists and senior foreign policy specialists say, if I stop now, I'd go down in history as a pretty successful president. No one thought I could get done what we got done.
But are you
Eyebrows.
being honest with yourself as well about your ability to defeat Donald Trump right now?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Eyebrows.
Yes.
You say that, and let me challenge you.
Sure.
Because you were close, but behind going into the debate. You're further behind now by any measure. It's been a two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon, yet you're still falling further behind.
You guys keep saying that. George, you know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
I don't think so, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there
They're
is it
breathing,
shows
man.
that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate and the House are doing better than you are.
Well, that's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 2020. Look, I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020.
Lean in.
I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2024, 2020, the red wave was coming. Before the vote, I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to win. We did better in an off year than almost any incumbent president ever has done. They said in 2023, all the tough races, we're not going to win. I went into all those areas, all those districts, and we won.
All that is true, but 2020 was a close race. And your approval rating has dropped significantly since then. I think the last poll I saw was at about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old to serve has doubled since 2020. Wouldn't a clear-eyed political calculus tell you that it's going to be much tougher to win in 2024?
Not when you're running against a pathological liar. Not when he hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged. Not when people...
You've had months to challenge him.
Oh, I sure had months, but I was also doing a hell of a lot of other things, like wars around the world, like keeping NATO together, like working... Anyway, but look...
Do you really believe you're not behind right now?
I think it's all pollsters I talk to tell me it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. And when I'm behind, there's only one poll I'm really far behind, CBS poll and NBC, and...
New York Times and NBC both have you about 6 points behind in the popular vote.
That's exactly right.
In the popular vote.
Oh, man.
Behind before anything happened to do with this race. Had me behind 10 points. 10 points had me behind. Nothing's changed substantially in the debate, the New York Times poll.
Just when you look at the reality, though, Mr. President, I mean, you won the popular vote in 2020, but it was still deadly close.
Cheated.
In the Electoral
By
College.
7 million votes.
Yes. But
Yeah,
you're
can we
behind
go
now.
over that real quick? I've actually got some numbers on hand about the 2020 election. We'll go back to Barack Obama. First 2008, he got 69 million votes. He won 873 counties. And in 2024, Donald Trump got 75 million votes. He won 2,497 counties in this country.
Wow.
2,500. In that same race, Joe Biden got 81 million votes and won 477 counties.
Just the big cities.
And now you got, I mean, we all know what happened in that election, but say it was legit, you got lucky and won just in the right places. When it comes to being down in the polls, like, that's a really bad sign because you've got no wiggle room whatsoever. You've got none. And it's, as George said, he's like, do you not believe that you're behind, Mr. President? And he's like, no, I'm not behind. It's a toss-up. Whew.
Now, you bring up those counties. Isn't it interesting that the counties that he won were heavy populated areas that are mostly all Democrat controlled?
Right. It was very strategic. It was the major cities. It was Philly. It was Georgia.
Atlanta.
Places where Oder Godfrey could fly under the radar, and that nobody would really notice. We were caught off guard in 2020. I'm telling you, that's not going to happen again. All right, a couple more minutes of this. We'll keep rolling.
Worth the risk?
I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me.
You know, the heart of your case against Donald Trump is that he's only out for himself, putting his personal
his
interest
mask
ahead of
is
the
slipping.
national interest. How do you respond to critics who say that by staying in the race, you're doing the same thing?
Oh, come on.
Come on, man.
Well, I don't think those critics know what they're talking about.
Politician smile.
They're just wrong.
It's wrong. Look, Trump is a pathological liar. Trump is, he is. Have you ever seen anything Trump did that benefited somebody else, not him? You can't answer, I know.
I've questioned him and his allies as persistently as any journalist has.
No, I know you have. I'm not being
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical. But look, I mean,
Oh no!
man
Oh no!
Slipping.
is a congenital liar.
Congenital.
As I said, they pointed out in that debate he lied 27, 28 times the times, or whatever number, over 20 times. Talk about how good his economy was, how he brought down inflation, how this is a guy who, unlike only other president other than him is Hoover, lost more jobs than he created. This is a guy who told us to put bleach in our arms to deal with COVID, with over a million
he
people
didn't.
died. This is the guy who talks about and wanting to get rid of the healthcare provisions we put in place. This is the guy who wants to give the power back to big pharma to be able to charge exorbitant prices for drugs. This is the guy who wants to undo every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I understand that, and I understand that's why you want to stay in the race, but have you convinced yourself that only you can defeat him?
I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him, and I know how to get things done.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
Smile.
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
Well, I mean, on a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man. We've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination too. Mark's not.
He's jealous. Mark's
Mark
jealous.
and I have a different
Yeah.
perspective. I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. No one said, none of the people said I should leave.
But if they do,
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
you sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I get out of the race, the Lord Almighty's not coming down. I mean, these hypotheticals, George, if all...
But it's not that hypothetical anymore. I grant that they have not requested the meeting, but it's been
Well,
reported.
I've met with them. I've met with a lot of these people. I've talked with them regularly. I had an hour conversation with Hakeem.
Just looks like he's
I had more
lying.
time than that with Jim Clyburn. I spent time with.
He's getting
many
defensive,
hours
but he doesn't have the
off and on
energy to get
last
too
week
defensive.
with Chuck
Like a little
Schumer.
kid caught, and he.
It's
No,
not like-
I didn't do it.
I had all the
Right.
governors. All the governors.
I agree that the Lord Almighty is not going to come down, but if
Hope he did.
you are told
It's kind of about
reliably
time, I
from
mean.
your allies, from your friends and supporters in the Democratic Party, in the House and the Senate, that they're concerned you're going to lose the House and the Senate if you stay in, what will you do?
I'm not going to answer that question. It's not going to happen.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
Okay.
Saw it today. How many people do you get draw crowds like I drew today?
Oh no!
You find me any more enthusiastic?
Caitlin
no.
Clark draws
I
bigger
mean,
crowds.
I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds, no question about it.
He can draw
Oh.
a big crowd, but what does he say? Who's he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble. We raised $38 million
What?
in 4 days after this. Over wherever.
Who else can draw a crowd like me?
Individual contributors. Less than $200. I mean, I've not seen what you're proposing.
You haven't seen the fall off in the polls. You haven't seen the reports of discontent in the Democratic Party, House Democrats, Senate Democrats.
I've seen it from the press.
Man, it just gets worse and worse. There's only a few more minutes, so I guess we can go with it. It's playing the crowd game when your opponent is Donald Trump is a really, really bad idea. But he goes on to, and that may have been it if you don't see any more. That may have been the end of the
Yeah, I
interview.
think it's it.
But he goes on to say, and this was maybe the most shocking part, is George says, what are you going to say if you lose? And he says, how are you going to feel if you lose? And he says, I'm just as long as I tried my best, that's all that matters. And they were all like, wait, what? And then you see, this is the media finally admitting, hey, we're playing for one side and we don't even care anymore, because they are concerned not about Joe Biden as a person or his well-being. They're concerned about Joe Biden's health interfering with his chances. That's not journalism. That's not how reporters are supposed to act. You're supposed to just be reporting the facts, not, come on, man, you got to get out because my team's going to lose this race. That's what the media has turned into. That's why journalism is dead. Now, granted, there is a big difference between Joe Biden now and Joe Biden from a year ago, or even Joe Biden from 4 years ago. If you go back and you take one of his 2020 interviews when he was running for president for the first time, here's a clip. Joe Biden in 2020 compared to what you just saw.
Nobody making less than $400,000 will pay a penny more in tax under my proposal.
That's a promise.
That's a guarantee, a promise. I give you my word as a Biden. That's an absolute guarantee.
You think it's a good idea to raise taxes when the economy's in dire straits?
Depending who you're raising them on. Look, if you're raising somebody who's making $1 billion a year, it's not a problem if they pay 39.6%, which everybody should pay, raise another $90 billion.
Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is, what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran.
So there's a big difference, obviously, as we can all see. In Joe Biden, 2020 Joe Biden and 2024 Joe Biden. And so these guys are freaking out. They're flipped out. They're like, we got to get him out of the race. We're going to lose. There's also a reason that Stephanopoulos is interviewing Joe Biden and not Joe Biden's opponent, Donald Trump. Because here's what happened one of the last times that George Stephanopoulos actually sat down with Donald Trump.
When you look back over the sweep of this campaign, going back to last June, is there anything you regret?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to have done certain things over, but you can't. You can't. But that's true in life. I'd love to have done in life certain things over, I guess. And you would have too.
Give me one.
You would have loved not to have contributed to the Clinton Foundation.
My Lord.
There are things that you wish
I got to get under the table.
Okay?
I can't watch this.
You came very close to the edge. You would have loved to have had that decision over again. There are things I would have rather, not happen. But George, all you can do is you put your head down and you have to go forward.
Oh, that's bad.
Now,
George.
see, I think he could run a hot dog stand. I really do.
Yeah, that guy could run a business. If anybody's ever been able to do it, it's this guy. That's crazy. But, again, this is just another thing. The media running cover for Joe Biden. Not Joe Biden. They're not running cover for Joe Biden. They're running cover for the Democrat Party.